Hey everybody, welcome to Week 20 Latin and Greek work. My name is Mr. Spina. I am the guy that is walking you through your Latin and Greek work through the remainder of the school year, and I'm glad to help you out. I hope you're doing all right. I want you to know that I'm recording this video from my home. You might hear a dog bark or some kids argue or a washing machine beep, all things you might expect to hear from home, right? It's real life. And I don't really want to have to make this video 4 times, so we're just going to make it once, and whatever happens, happens, okay? First, I want to kind of take a detour before we dive into the Week 20 Latin and Greek work. I want to talk about why it is we study Latin and Greek terms, because we use them because a lot of our language, a lot of languages like French and Italian and Spanish even have their roots come from Latin and Greek. So a lot of words in all of those languages, including English, have roots in Latin and Greek. So if you learn those Latin and Greek roots, you learn a lot of different words without having to know the meaning of those words. You can just kind of piece them together. Like, for instance, biology. I'm sure you've heard of that class. Bio in its Latin and Greek roots. I don't know if it's Latin or Greek, but I do know bio means life, and I know that ology means study of. So biology means study of life. And I know that because I know the roots that make up the word. Here's another example that kind of builds on what we just talked about. Audiology. I know what audio means and I know what ology means, so I know what audiology means. An audiologist is someone who studies sound, particularly how the human brain hears and processes sound. Here's another example, geography. Geo means earth and graph means write or to record. So geography is really about the written record of earth, I guess, particularly maps, right? Which would make sense. And then here's a math one for you math people. Diameter, this is a word we've spoken about if you've been doing Latin and Greek roots for a while. I know that dia means across and meter means measure. So when I see the term diameter in math class, I don't have to remember what it is. I just know it means a cross measure, and that helps me out in math class. So what I want you to understand is that we study Latin and Greek roots. We make you study Latin and Greek roots because those roots show up in a lot of languages, including our language, and it helps you figure out the meaning of words that you might not otherwise know. They're useful. And some of you have already started noticing these terms showing up in science class and whatnot. All right, so I'm going to go back to our roots for this week, week 20, and this assignment, which is coming to you from your teacher somehow. Here are our roots for week 20. We have publicus, which means of the people. We're dealing with the people at large, like the population. Scope means to examine. If you've ever heard of a microscope, you know that micro means small. So a microscope is a tool to examine small things. Pretty handy, right? Syn or psi means together or with, like in sync, I guess. Synchronized. Hetero means mixed or unlike. And if you're in science class, you may have talked about heterogeneous and homogeneous mixtures. And archaeos means ancient. It looks a lot like architect, that root. Archos, right? What are we doing here? Okay, so in this section, what you're going to do is you're going to find the meaning of these words. And since you're tuned in, I'll help you with some of the answers. And let's say Republican, because this is probably the hardest one. We're not talking about the Republican Party here. We're talking about a Republican form of government. I recognize this root, so I'm going to underline it. And I'm going to pop open a new tab. Pretty cool looking background image, right? I'm going to type Republican definition. And I see that a republican, a form of government belonging to or characteristic of a republic. That doesn't really help me. This doesn't really help me. Let's see if we can expand this. So what I'm going to do is republic. See if we can get a definition. A state in which supreme power is held by the people. So I'm going to go back to my assignment. Form of government where power is held by the people. And since this is the root that I recognize. I'm going to underline the root in my explanation. Oops. There we go. Ta-da! Look, I've done number 1 for you. It's probably the most difficult one on the assignment. Let's scroll down to section 2. What you're going to do is look for 3 words that use each of these roots. And a great search string is words that use the root archeos, or words that use the root scope. Just a bit of advice, don't type any words that you are unsure of the definition of. You don't have to be able to explain it in your own terms, but before you write it in your assignment that you're giving for your teacher, you might want to make sure you know what the word means, okay? Next, section 3, there's a Quizlet where you can go and practice your terms for week 20. There are games, flashcards, all kinds of useful things. And then finally, there is a test that you can take. The test is not linked in here. Your teacher will provide you that test. I want to show you what that test will look like. So here it is. It just asks you some questions. Pretty straightforward. When you finish the quiz, it will give you your grade back. If it doesn't give you your grade right away, send an email to your homeroom teacher, or you can email me. There's my address right there, and I can get it to you, whatever works best for you. Keep in mind, it would be really easy to cheat on this and get your answers from someplace else. It doesn't really matter because the grade's not going in the grade book. We want you to try. We want you to work at remembering and learning these things so you can get these Latin and Greek roots embedded in your brain. So, like I started by saying, you can be really good at solving words when you encounter them. I'm going to go back to your work for this week. That was your introduction to week 20 Latin and Greek work. Let me know if you have questions or you need help with anything. But good luck and take care.